The Krillathi were apex predators from a death world where survival meant constant vigilance. Their cubs were born with retractable claws, razor-sharp teeth, and instincts honed by millions of years of evolution. They didn't sleep, they took combat naps, always ready to spring into action at the slightest. Disturbance Ambassador Chen Wei had been warned about. All of this before accepting the assignment to the Krillathi homeworld of Scarix. Prime, what the briefings hadn't mentioned was how utterly exhausting it would be to work alongside beings who viewed rest as a tactical weakness. The diplomatic compound sat on the edge of the Krillathi capital, a sprawling city of crystalline towers that never dimmed. Chen had been there for 3 months negotiating trade agreements and cultural exchanges when Elder Vrask arrived with an unusual request. "The human will observe our young," Vrask announced, her mane bristling with what Chen had learned to recognize as barely concealed anxiety. 3 cubs. Their mother fell in the frontier wars. I must attend the memorial rites for 7 planetary rotations. Before Chen could protest that he had no experience with Krillathi young, 3 small figures burst into the room. They were the size of earth leopards, covered in midnight blue fur with bioluminescent stripes that pulsed with their emotional states. Their eyes, too many eyes, Chen still wasn't used to that, fixed on him with unnerving intensity. "They will not burden you," Vrask continued. "Cubs are self-sufficient. They require only space and occasional raw meat." Then she was gone, and Chen was left staring at 3 predator cubs whose stripes were flashing an alarming shade of orange. The first 2 days were chaos. The cubs, Vrask had called them Nixar, Talus, and Kree, treated the compound like a hunting ground. They scaled walls, shredded furniture, and seemed to operate on a 20-minute sleep cycle that left Chen perpetually exhausted. Every time he dozed off, one of them would pounce on him, testing his reflexes with what their species considered playful mock attacks. On the 3rd night, delirious from sleep deprivation, Chen did something that would change everything. He grabbed the thermal blanket from his bunk, a simple thing, standard issue for human diplomats, woven from adaptive fibers that regulated temperature and provided comfort. He wrapped himself in it and collapsed on the floor of the common area, too tired to make it back to his quarters. When he woke 6 hours later, truly rested for the first time in days, he found all 3 cubs pressed against him beneath the blanket. Their stripes pulsed a soft, contented purple. Nixar, the smallest, had her paws tucked against Chen's chest. Talus was sprawled across his legs. Kree, the most aggressive of the 3, had wrapped himself in a corner of the blanket and was purring, a sound Chen hadn't known Krillathi could make. They'd slept. Really slept. Not the hyper-vigilant combat naps their species was known for, but deep restorative sleep. Chen carefully extricated himself and observed the cubs. They stirred but didn't wake with their usual explosive energy. When they finally rose an hour later, their movements were less frantic, their play less aggressive. "Interesting," Chen muttered, pulling out his datapad to record observations. That evening, he conducted an experiment. He laid out 3 separate blankets, one from his emergency supplies, one fashioned from clothing, and his original thermal blanket. The cubs investigated them with typical Krillathi caution, sniffing and pawing. Then, simultaneously, all 3 burrowed into the makeshift bedding. Within minutes, they were asleep again. The pattern continued. The cubs began seeking out soft materials, dragging Chen's clothes and towels into piles. Their aggressive play decreased. They ate at regular intervals instead of gorging opportunistically. Most remarkably, they started sleeping in synchronized cycles, curled together in a nest of fabrics they'd accumulated. When Elder Vrask returned, she froze in the doorway. Her cubs were sleeping, truly sleeping, in an elaborate nest of blankets, their stripes glowing a peaceful blue she'd never seen outside of medical sedation. "What have you done to them?" she demanded, her claws extending reflexively. Chen raised his hands in the Krillathi gesture of peace. "I gave them blankets. That's all. Human comfort items. They seem to like them." Vrask approached slowly, studying her cubs. Nixar yawned, stretched, and nuzzled back into the blanket without fully waking. The elder's eyes widened. "This is impossible. Krillathi young don't sleep like this." "They can't. Survival instincts prevent deep rest cycles." "Perhaps," Chen said carefully, "the instincts are responding to a new variable. Blankets provide warmth, security, and tactile comfort. On Earth, these things help even adult humans feel safe enough to sleep deeply. Maybe your cub's instincts recognize the blankets as providing protection, allowing them to rest. Over the following weeks, word spread through the Krilathi command structure. Scientists arrived to study the phenomenon. The cubs, now fully bonded to their blankets, demonstrated improved cognitive function, better emotional regulation, and enhanced physical development. They were thriving in ways that defied Krilathi understanding of their own biology. The discovery had implications that rippled across Krilathi society. A species that had built its entire culture around vigilance and the rejection of vulnerability suddenly confronted evidence that rest, deep rest, might make them stronger, not weaker. Elder Vrask stood beside Chen, watching her cubs sleep peacefully in their blanket nest. "Humans are not predators," she said quietly. "Your species should have been prey, weak, easy to dismiss." "We were prey once," Chen replied. "We survived by becoming social, by building tools, by making ourselves comfortable enough to dream. Our strength isn't in claws or speed. It's in the things we create to make harsh worlds feel like home." Nixar stirred, reached out a paw, and pulled the blanket tighter around herself without waking. "The cubs refuse to sleep without them now," Vrask said. "Without the humans' blankets," Chen smiled. "Then I suppose we'll need to establish a new trade agreement. Blankets for cubs. Cultural exchange at its finest." Vrask's mane rippled with what Chen had learned to recognize as Krilathi laughter. "Humans," she said. "You conquer worlds not with weapons, but with comfort. It's terrifying. It's called civilization," Chen said. "We'd be happy to share." In the nest of blankets, 3 predator cubs slept soundly, dreaming dreams their species had forgotten how to have, wrapped in the simple human innovation that had taught them peace.